Bellying up to the 9-foot homemade oak bar, my name is Craig Toth, your host of Minor League News and Brews, talking about everything around the Pirates minor league system. Today is most likely the last episode of the Minor League News and Brews for the new year. As we lead into the international signing period, which is set to begin on January 15th, 2024. The next time you hear from me, I will be talking about the top prospects international, as well as the ones that could be tied to the Pittsburgh Pirates, exactly where they rank, what they play, what their grades are. But today, what I am going to do is something that I had talked about, which is just breaking down the transactions that have happened on the minor league side of things. A lot of these are depth pieces that are added to usually the Triple A roster. I already had an episode not too long ago bringing you the players that the Pirates selected in the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft. Some of those guys could fit in Double A Altoona and below. Seth Beer, who I'll be mentioning again probably towards the end of this episode, is a guy that will slot in Triple A Indianapolis. So as far as these minor league transactions go, they usually are met with not the best reactions, mostly on social media, due to the fact that prior to these, there weren't a lot of, moves made on the major league side of things. And then even when a player is picked up, they talk about how, Pirates fans will be clamoring for them to be brought up as they're tearing up AAA Indianapolis, even though the years of baseball may have passed them by, or guys that really haven't, met the expectations at the major league level, and even some that haven't even reached the majors at all. The first signing that the Pirates made, the transaction in the minor league portion, I mentioned it when it happened in passing when I was talking with Chris Lanuti over on Bucs in the Basement, the regular show that comes out every Wednesday. 24-year-old Gilberto Celestino, center fielder from the Minnesota Twins organization. In 2021 and 2022, he had 409 plate appearances, slashed 222, 300, 592, and that was actually no, didn't slash. The 592 is the is the OPS total, because it was a 70 OPS plus. He had left thumb surgery in 2023. Only had 245 plate appearances, slashed 244, 385, 386 with 4 home runs. In 2022, he had a positive +2 defensive runs saved in center field. So he is a fairly athletic guy, but is really just one of those depth pieces filling the spots, most likely in AAA Indianapolis. The other thing that happened then was Rodri Munoz was claimed on December 1st. And we've probably, if you're paying attention even just a little bit right now, you'll see that he was traded to Miami for cash considerations on December 20th. When he was picked up, it was talked about as like a depth piece, as somebody who you might try to slide through waivers. Obviously, Miami saw something that they would want to use him for, obviously for depth as well, and gave the Pirates some cash considerations for that. On December 6th, Deville Castillo, a right-handed pitcher. That's an international signing, and I'll talk a little bit more about the international signings before we get to our beer reviews at the end of the show. December 8th, Hunter Stratton. People saw Hunter Stratton pitch last year in Pittsburgh. He chose a free agency on November 17th. Uh, and basically, what happens here is he pitches in Pittsburgh 12 innings, 2.25 ERA, a 1 whip. Stratton is a guy who had some buzz. Not coming into this season, but in previous seasons. In Indianapolis this past season, he pitched just a little over 56 innings, a 3.99 ERA, a 1.33 whip. When I think he was, released around the same time as Osvaldo Bido, who ended up signing a major league deal with the Oakland Athletics, talked about both of these guys being people that they might want to sign back as minor league free agents just for depth. Performed, well enough in his, brief stint in the major leagues, but not really somebody who you could see, breaking camp with the team, barring some injuries. The same day, they also signed Ryder Ryan. In 2023, he pitched 1 inning for the Seattle Mariners. Most of his time was with the AAA team for them. In 55 innings, he had a 3.76 ERA, a 1.236 whip. Once again, just another depth piece. And this next signing is one that I'm pretty sure I think I missed. I just was looking back through the transaction page, didn't hear a whole lot about it. It's Sergio Alcantara, shortstop. He was in the majors for parts of seasons from 2020 through 2022. A little over 500 plate appearances, slashed 209, 281, 343 with 12 home runs. In 2023, he spent his time in the Cubs and the Diamondbacks systems at AAA, slashed 268, 374, 402, 8 home runs. Once again, a guy that you have to, fill out your roster throughout Indianapolis, Altoona, Greensboro, Bradenton. So you're going to see a decent amount of these like minor league signings as depth pieces. But of course, it's the World Series. Here we come whenever, these different types of things are announced. But I didn't really see a lot of people going or saying really much of anything about Sergio Alcantara being signed. A guy with some major league experience, not a lot of success, plays well in AAA, so a depth piece for your team. On December 11th, Ben Heller, he came up with Atlanta last year and did see him pitch 18 and 2/3 innings for them, dealing with some injuries and stuff. So sometimes these depth pieces are used even by some of the best organizations. He had a 3.86 ERA and an unfortunate 1.446 whip. He spent most of 2023 in Tampa and Atlanta's AAA systems. He pitched 44 innings, a 3.27 ERA, and a 1.227 whip. The same day, Isaac Matson, knew this name sounded familiar. In 2017, he was the 19th round pick for the Angels out of the University of Pittsburgh. Was a pretty good pitcher for Pitt. If you guys have listened to me for even a few minutes, most people know that I am a big West Virginia University baseball fan. So, I'll know some Pitt players as well. Saw this name, recognized it immediately. In 2023, he was in the Atlantic League, which is the independent league. If anybody sees when the rule changes that have come into effect, like some of the first places they're tried out at was in the Atlantic Independent League. They had like a contract with Major League Baseball, and we're seeing a lot of these rules, come into effect, but they're tried out in the Atlantic League first. He played for the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs, pitched 19 innings to the tune of a 3.32 ERA and a 1.053 whip. Picked up by the Minnesota Twins, stashed by them in Double A. He pitched a little over 32 innings for them, and he had a 3.62 ERA and a 1.206 whip. Now, this one came about on December 15th. As everybody knows, that was the deadline for the current international signing period. There is a little bit of a break for a month from December 15th to January 15th. During that break, nobody is able to be signed. You're not allowed to carry over that international bonus pool space. So basically, the Pirates trade the New York Yankees $500,000 in international bonus space for Billy McKinney, outfielder. And immediately, the Yankees go and sign Dominican catcher Justin Capellan for $450,000. He's a 17-year-old catcher. Not a lot known about him. Basically had the height and weight, 6 foot tall, 170 pounds, but a pretty big signing bonus. So kind of sounds like the Yankees were in on him, wanted to get some of the international bonus space that the Pirates had acquired from the Rangers in the Austin Hedges trade. The Pirates, obviously were running out of time to use that. So, you trade it for a center fielder who, at least had some time in the major leagues last year for the Yankees. He's a former first-round pick in 2013 for the Oakland Athletics. For the Yankees last year, he had 147 plate appearances, slashed 227, 320, 406 with 6 home runs. For his career, he does have around 915 plate appearances, but the slash line you're seeing is pretty much, what he is. 209, 284, 390 with 34 career major league home runs. Spent a lot of time in AAA last year. Another, outfield depth piece. We had some outfielders that, elected free agency, have signed with other teams, so you do have to fill out the rosters. So, Billy McKinney, he slashed 274, 388, 511 with 9 home runs in AAA last year. A solid depth piece, 29 years old, not really giving up anything for him, because if you weren't going to use the bonus pool space, you can trade it to, try to get some of that depth. Most recently, Jake Lamb, 33-year-old first baseman. Kind of funny. He was picked by the Pirates in the 38th round of the 2009 draft, chose to go to college, then was picked in 2012 by the Arizona Diamondbacks in the 6th round. You'll probably remember him if you're a baseball fan from, 2015 to about 2018, especially 16 and 17, 29 home runs in 2016, 27 home runs, 30 home runs in 2017. He was an all-star, a really good player, but this past year, he only had about 54 plate appearances for the Angels at the major league level. slashed 214. Well, didn't slash. He hit 214 with a 612 OPS, 2 home runs, and he now joins Beer in AAA. Got some first base options down there. Some pretty old first base depth, former top prospects, but I mean, it's better than nothing. But most of the time, like I said, these guys, if you see them at all outside of the relief pitchers, because I mean, there is somewhat of a revolving door. Hopefully, not as fast as it's been in previous years, but I mean, that's like the minor league depth signings. To the lottery ticket international signings. The previously mentioned Davil Castillo, the right-handed pitcher they signed on December 6th. Also picked up another right-handed pitcher, Jeremiah Barrero, and that was on December 14th. Also on December 14th, Jaden Kim, 17-year-old, out of Australia, born in South Korea, has kind of bounced back and forth with his dad, who is a major league scout and is currently a scout for the Pirates. Daniel Kim, not a whole lot known about Jaden, just that he's, athletic and young, 17 years old. I mean, when we're talking about lottery tickets, I mean, this is like one of the most, it's like an ultimate lottery ticket. But I mean, it's a good thing when these types of things work out for the Pirates. The early 2010s, you saw a Jose Tabata, a Starling Marte, a Gregory Polanco, and although other than Marte, the other ones had some limited success. But I mean, if you get a lottery ticket and they make it to Major League Baseball and are contributors pretty much on any level, you consider that a success. And then the Pirates did spend $200,000 of their international bonus pool space on the last day, getting Emmanuel Chapman, 25-year-old Cuban. Looks like he had defected from Cuba back in April. Had seen some video on him leading up to that. He's got a fastball that sits 93 to 98. I mean, you can look up the Cuban League stats. You're really not, going to find too much with him. I mean, I think it's maybe a total of 20 innings. But, I mean, as I'll be talking about during the next episode that I have, like I said, more than likely after the new year, I mean, a lot of people are just we're going to be signing these kids that are, as young as 16 years old, that have been scouted from the Dominican, from, Venezuela since they were 10, 11, 12 years old. And, the Pirates have taken, different approaches throughout the international, signing period. It used to be, Neil Huntington did make a couple, big splashes, some big bonuses, but for the most part, it was just, quantity over quality, hoping to find that quality or at least, one or two players from within those groups. We've seen Ben Cherington go out and sign a decent amount of guys that have fallen within the top 30 prospects, whether it be MLB Pipeline, Fangraphs. But, I mean, a lot of the times, I mean, you're getting the grading on these and you don't really know, exactly, what it's going to look like, especially once they start to, fill out. I mean, I know we have a Tony Blanco Jr., who's already, a large human. But for the most part, you're getting these guys, when you don't know exactly what body type, how big they're gonna grow to be. A lot of times adjusting, their batting stances and approaches, adjusting mechanics as they grow for on the pitching end of things. So when you talk about these lottery tickets, I mean, it really truly is. I mean, just putting money into this, and I think this past season, it's probably right around like $6 million that you're spending, hoping to find one of those international superstars that can move their way through up the system. I mean, we've seen a lot of that throughout Major League Baseball, guys showing up at 19, 20, 21 years old, busting into the scene. But I mean, if you're counting, the number of players that are signed, during that, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Hopefully, Charrington is able to have the same success that I mentioned, with a Tabata, with a Marte, with a Polanco. But I mean, those types of successes are, kind of few and far between, and the odds are hardly ever in your favor.
A pitcher of beer, a pitcher of beer, let's order another pitcher of beer. That pitcher of beer should come over here. I love that pitcher of beer.
Since I am going on a holiday break here, won't be working my regular job, have already recorded the Bucs in the Basement episode for next week. We'll be dropping either the 26th, a day early, or on the 27th. I had a chance to sit down with Jason Mackey, Pirates beat reporter from the Post-Gazette, again, to have a little bit of fun where I kind of played the Grinch, because that's what my family calls me, and kind of like push back against, what the Pirates have done this far during the off season. But as I said, I'm going on break here, and when I go on break, a lot of times the days start with a bloody and end with a bourbon, so there's not a lot of time for the brews in between. Luckily, this past Monday, I did have the opportunity to go out to a pretty cool Christmas/holiday pop-up bar. We had been to the holiday pop-up bar a decent amount of times in previous years with family members and stuff. But we kind of started a little tradition with our neighbors and kids. Took them to this place. They had a Halloween pop-up bar, and this time it was the regular Christmas pop-up bar. Good food, ton of bulbs, ton of lights for this one, a sleigh in the middle. You can get a picture with your friends and family and just kind of have a good time, enjoying the holidays. And got to sample, since it was Christmas time, they have some delicious beers. The first one I had was the 2 Times Xmas, and that's from Southern Tier. I believe I've had this one before. It's one of those ones that has a lot of like the different spices and stuff in it. And like I said, those ones really aren't my favorite because, I mean, throughout every season, my wife is, burning candles atop of our fireplace. So I say these ones kind of, taste like candles, taste like what's going on inside my house. 8%. I gave this one a 375 and actually gave it the reverse. I guess I usually take points off. This one giving points on the weighted based on batting average. Bring it up to 425 because it may be your type of drink, but really not my type of drink. The next one falls into what would be in my favorite category this time of year. Great Lakes Christmas Ale. Have had this one many, many times throughout the years. This one falls into that wonderful winter warmer category that I've mentioned before and that I'll probably be hopping into at the beginning of the new year. from Great Lakes, 7.5%. Give this one a 475, knock it down to 425, and then my all-time favorite beer for this time of year. Definitely had to, review this one before, many others, and it is the St. Nicholas Bock from Penn Brewery. My wife and I have stopped in there at times, and had to used to, back in the day, pick up a case of the St. Nicholas Bock because it wasn't, in your local beer distributors, wasn't at the bars, so had to make a special trip, and it was always worth it because a lot of the times they have the samples of, the St. Nicholas Bocks throughout the year, the St. Nicholas Reserve, ones that are done in like oak barrels, ones that are done in whiskey barrels. I think one time they did something with Wiggle whiskey, and that was just a delicious beer. So St. Nicholas Bock is a beer that is always in my fridge throughout the Christmas season. Just happened to have this one out, coming in at 6%. Give this one 500, knock it down to 450. Obviously, one of the top scoring beers during minor league news and brews, and we're going to be coming up on a year of minor league news and brews here at some point in time. So during this holiday season, I would just like to take a minute and thank all of the guests that have been on this. Anybody who listens to this, it has actually grown to be a nice little companion to the regular Bucs in the Basement podcast, almost reaching the numbers of the Bucs in the Basement podcast, which when I started this, I could have never imagined. Just wanted to give really myself a place to talk about the Pirates minor league system, without taking up too much time on the Bucs in the Basement. And because it is, only 30 minutes of Bucs, this is 30 minutes of minor league news and brews. But to anybody that has, thank you so much. Keep listening. Going to be doing a lot of things, going to a lot of games coming up here in the 2024 season. And if I don't talk to you, if something big doesn't come out, would like to wish all of you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I'll talk to you guys in 2024.